A lot of problems that chess players have in common is how to finish an attack. An attack against the opponent's king is the best attack, but it's not the only attack. A good attacker understands that positional value supersedes monetary value. Look at this position. As an attacker, you should always be on the lookout for key moments. Why? Because a game is won by tactics. Your focus should always be to obtain an advantage. And to see your advantage, you make a quick evaluation of the position. You have two bishops that are strategically placed. Both your queen and your rook are centralized. And after making an evaluation of the position, this will help you determine your next move. To go on the attack, you want to look at the king that's sitting on G1. Look at your bishop on B7. The pawn on G2. The only thing that's holding that pawn on G2 is the king on G1. A rook lift to the 5th rank. And after a move, let's say like knight to E2, rook to G5. Now you have both the rook and the bishop aiming at the pawn on G2. Knight G3. So if knight G3, then knight to H5 puts more pressure. E4 is played to block the bishop's range, and then knight takes. Pawn to H4, kicking the rook. Bishop there. Now let's take a look at queen to F3, for example. Rook over to F5. If the pawn captures rook, then bishop on B7 captures queen. And if queen takes the knight, then bishop takes F2, queen takes F2, and rook takes F2, and king takes. Now you have obtained a winning game. You have queen, rook, and bishop versus two rooks and a bishop. Check. If king over to E2, then rook over to E8. Now you have your bishop on B7, rook on E8, and queen on D4, all pressuring the E4 pawn. King to D2, and now queen takes B2 check, king E3, and queen to C3, pinning the bishop. Now let's take a look at this position again from the starting position. Rook E5, knight E2, rook G5, and knight G3, knight H5, E4, knight takes G3, pawn to H4. And after bishop D4, what happens if pawn captures rook, then queen captures rook? Now the threat is queen to H4, threatening checkmate. Now two tries here for white are rook E3 and queen F3. If rook E3, then bishop takes rook, and after the recapture, queen captures E3 check, king H2, and now rook over to D8 pins the bishop. Queen F3 loses to rook captures D3, and Black is winning with 2 extra pieces. Now in this position, instead of rook e3, if white plays queen f3, then queen h4.
So well, listen up. First, to initiate an attack in chess, the player needs to create a combination that forces their opponent to either move his pieces or lose them.
In the words of chess coach Harry, search for the weakest spot in your opponent's position. Routine use of information, study, and practice can create confidence. The next lesson is on pawns, when to push them, when to trade them, and when to sacrifice them. You're playing the white side. You have a queen side pawn majority. Therefore, you start pushing pawns on that side of the board. Pawn to a3 stops the knight from going to b4. And now your next obvious pawn push is pawn to b4, threatening a fork on the b5 square. As I stated before, always be on the lookout for key moments. Look for your next knockout blow. The pawn on b7 is a tactical target. Rook captures c8, and after the recapture, bishop takes pawn on b7. And this is followed by rook to c2, bishop captures rook on a6, and rook captures knight on d2. And now you have 2 passed pawns. From this point on, the only thing you have to worry about as white is black's pawn on d4. Now white plays the pawn to a5, but what's the idea behind sacrificing the b pawn? You will see. After capturing the pawn on b4, the bishop drops back to f1 with the idea of pushing the pawn up the board. Pawn to a6 will be defended by the bishop on f1. And now the pawn is only 2 squares from promotion. Rook over to a7. White will need to bring the rook to the 5th rank in order to get behind the pawn on d4 at some point. White here exploits his advantage of the passed pawn by challenging the opponent's rook. Rook retreats to the 8th rank, and now bishop c4. Now there's a double attack on the f7 pawn. After black's next move, rook captures pawn on f7, threatens a discovery. So now rook captures f7 and king over to h8, avoiding the threat. And after king h8, rook over to d7 gets behind the pawn, and the pawn on a6 is defended by the bishop, and black resigned. Thank you. That is all I have for now. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for my next video.